Of course, none of us knows what happens after we die. David Eagleman, a neuroscientist, wrote a book that maybe some of you read years ago called SUM, S-U-M, 40 Tales from the Afterlives. Each of the short essays was one different imagining of the afterlife. There was one called Subjunctive, in which you meet all the other versions of yourself that could have been. The ones who were a little less diligent, the ones who went to the gym every single day. And you can decide whether that might be heaven or hell or just interesting. And there's another in which everyone continues on, all of us continue on in another realm, laughing and talking in one big party, but we of course leave our bodies behind. And the body, he says, feels a bit like a cast after the cast party, having just gone through this incredible dramatic bonding and then acknowledging, sadly, it's over. Eagleman writes, when you die, you're grieved by all the atoms of which you were composed. They hung together for years, whether in sheets of skin or communities of spleen, and when with your death, they do not die. Instead, they part ways, moving off their separate directions, mourning the loss of the special time they shared together, haunted by the feeling that they were once playing parts in something larger than themselves, something that had its own life, something they can hardly put their finger on. But also another imagining begins with the naturalist version, all of us, degrading back into life, sent out in oxygen molecules and beyond this universe, but then eventually missing each other and their connection and return every millennia or so to reconstitute you, and then start to yearn for their freedom and break apart again. All these visions. Personally, I find death completely incomprehensible. The most natural thing in the world, but also as incomprehensible as the other most natural thing, birth. Maybe more so, right? Because in death there is this whole entity with a history and a personality and emotions and secrets, an unfinished business sometimes. And in he or she or they are there one moment, one breath, and then gone. And even though we know so much of them remains, an enormous amount vanishes in that moment. I am much more with Edna St. Vincent Millay in her Dirge Without Music, if you know the poem, where she writes, I am not resigned to the shutting away of loving hearts in the hard ground. So it is and so it will be, for so it has been time out of mind. With the lilies and laurels they go, but I am not resigned. Maybe all that lack of resignation is why this week my mother-in-law gone, Shirley Gibson gone, Ardith Fortier gone, so many gone. Back in a building, back here in community, and so missing them, Bill Wise and Ruth Cowan and Ken Keep and Francis Lee, and so many who we lost while we were apart, and so the loss didn't really sink in. All these gorgeous life forces gone. I find myself deeply grieving and struggling to figure out a way to move through just the frustration of all this loss. And I'll tell you the one thing that has kept me going. It's a photo that Courtney Young Law took at the family Halloween picnic last Sunday afternoon. It has me in my silly costume, holding a baby who turned 1 this week, Sterling Hamner, who lost his grandmother before he was born, who came into this world in this wild last year. smiling at my masked face, the most beautiful baby smile you have seen. I've kept it on my desktop, on my computer, this gorgeous baby whose brother is also a wonderful life force. And all of the kids who were at this picnic with their thoughts and their jokes and their opinions and their observations and their costumes, all of reminding me actually of what has come into this world recently when so much I love has gone out. And not in some abstract way, these flesh and blood human beings to love. All of it epitomized this week in one bundle of scrumptious babydom that I can't wait for you to meet. Not because it's going to pry my fingers off of the losses I feel or force me to let go of who we have lost, but so that my heart can start to think of the ways to reach beyond grief just a little. When talking about Eagleman's book with some friends recently, one of them asked aloud, "What do you say when someone asks you what you think happens after we die?" And one of the people in the conversation said, "I tell people I don't think we know, so think of what your fondest wish is of what happens after this life and believe it, because it might actually be true." And another said, "I just say that the thing I hold on to is that a life may end, but the ripples don't." Indeed. UU Kenneth Collier perhaps put it best when he wrote, "I do not know where we go when we die, and I do not know what the soul is, or what death is, or when or why. What I know is that the song once sung cannot be unsung, and the life once lived cannot be unlived, and the love once loved cannot be unloved." In other words, a life may end, but its ripples do not. This morning is proof enough of that. Life. A force unseen, but felt and shared and wielded and passed along the lives we've said farewell to this year. These forces, these tsunamis of life and love and character, gone in body. And we are not resigned to that, but still cascading across this earth's surfaces, carrying us with it. Ripples beyond our vision. For all those we love, and we've called into this space today, let us say once again, presente, siempre, fuerzas de amor.